If I could ask the clerk to bring up PB NSC CAN 408042. And scroll down to page 2. If I've got the right document, there should be a comment by Whalen. What is his objective? There we go. Thank you. Now we can see from the extract above that you were a participant in this Teams chat. Again, can I take it correctly that you are in a Teams chat monitoring, I think at an SSE meeting? Yeah. Yes. And do you understand what Alison Whalen meant by what is his objective beyond getting us to take over?
Can you scroll up a bit?
Mr. Clerk, could you give Commissioner Lucky the context there?
The answers. Agree. I'm imagining, again, I'm speculating because there was a lot going on. I don't know who he is in this reference, but obviously it's somebody talking, I'm imagining one of the ministers or somebody in that meeting about what are the next steps if, in fact, OPS needs further assistance. I'm not exactly sure what it means, what she means by that, but I'm just wondering if there was any, she's asking, is there any other options besides us taking over?
Well, let me ask you more directly then, rather than through what we have to agree are difficult decipherings of long ago choppy text messages. But were you having discussions with senior officials or your minister about the possibility of the RCMP actually taking over policing in Ottawa?
Yeah, I think there was a misconception because people automatically assume the RCMP being the federal police agency, that's what our responsibility was. So there was a bit of education on that in us saying, of course, when people were looking at solutions, one of the solutions was, well, why doesn't the RCMP take over? We got asked that quite often, and we'd say, well, we're not the police of jurisdiction. We don't have jurisdiction in the province of Ontario. There's a lot of other layers before coming to, you would never come to the RCMP. That's not our role. But I think there was an assumption because we're the federal policing or national policing agency in Canada, there was an assumption that that's what that meant. And so we were trying to educate deputy ministers and ministers that, you know, our role is not to overtake any police agency. We're here to assist in any way we can.
And were you getting input from senior officials or your minister or other ministers for that matter to the effect of what more can you do? Can't you do more? Couldn't you be in there? Statements like that?
Oh, there was things like, what do you need? Do you need any more resources? Is there any equipment you need? Is there anything we can help you with that would help Ottawa succeed in this event? Because I was the touch point for all police agencies. So whether it was Windsor, Coutts, the Lower Mainland, it was always, whenever any big event happens, I always get the same questions. Do you have everything you need? Is there anything you don't have that you need? Please come to us. And so I get those same questions.
Right. The question to you, do you have everything you need, is, Mr. Clerk, can you scroll down to page 2, timestamp for a heading to suggest that there is going to be a meeting with Mr. Slowly. Can you just scroll through till we find that? Yeah, there we go. So you are advised, Commissioner, in the course of this Teams chat that you are going to have a meeting with Chief Slowly at 2 p.m. And if we go down to page 5 of this document at 6:37 in the timestamp, so I think 1:37 in real time, Now, we're all going to have to contend with this. None of us gets to see what's behind the black. Well, you did at the time, but you're not going to tell us now.
I wouldn't remember.
But you come in at 6:37 with this statement: disregard, as OPP Commissioner advises, there is a pretty straightforward way in that the minister goes to the Ontario Police Commission. Can you tell us what you were talking about there?
It would be sheer speculation. I honestly don't, I would say that it's about talking about if they needed to go to the Ontario, I don't even know, Ontario Police Commission.
In fairness to you, let me take you to some more of this, and maybe when you see some more context, you'll be reminded of what that statement about. Mr. Clerk, can we take us down to page 16 of this chat? And there's the statement, I don't get it.
I didn't get it.
And I'll read that out. This is you, Commissioner Lucky, speaking. I don't get it. Are they going to the province or not regarding PS, which you'll probably agree with me is a reference to Peter Slowly?
No, it could be, I didn't get it. I don't know if they're talking about the mission statement. I didn't get it. That's how I'm,
Sorry, I didn't get it correctly.
Yeah.
In other words, you didn't hear what they were talking about, or you didn't understand what they were talking about?
or I didn't, I'm looking at the mission, the modifications of
Okay.
mission statement. Am I saying I didn't get it? I didn't get the mission statement? I'm not sure. Are they going to the province or not regarding?
I see.
Can you scroll,
Yes, please, Mr. Clerk, please scroll up to help
just to see
Commissioner
if I can
Lucky.
jog something in my memory?
And
maybe
clerk,
go to the next
scroll along so that she can follow the context of the point that I just put to her.
Integrated planning, so.
Watching the chatter, correct? And that reflects what you knew at the time?
I don't know what date this is referring to.
Sure, if we can go up to the top, I believe it was January 27th.
Yeah, the convoy hadn't even arrived yet.
Right.
Yeah, oh, okay, within our events, yeah, as it was crossing, yes.
Apologies, David Cherokee for the Government of Canada. Again, it's the minus 5 hours thing, so I think we're at the 26th in the evening.
Okay, thank you.
So-
Yes, so it's, Ken, if we can then just scroll down again. And if we can go to the second page, so this would be the evening of the 26th. So if we go to page 2, the first bullet, you'll see just at the top, blocking of intersections. Protesters say they're not going to do that, but it's a lot of cars, which is what you understood at the time as well. They were not planning to block intersections.
Where is this?
I'm sorry?
This is in Ottawa?
Yes.
Because they're not even in Ottawa yet.
I'm sorry?
Like, from what I understand is that January 28th, the convoys,
That's correct, but based on what you knew on the 26th in the evening, you understood that they were not planning on blocking intersections.
in Ottawa.
Correct.
Okay, that I don't know, but if
I
it's,
think, can I just add something here, sir? This is the first time I see this
yeah, I've
document.
never seen this.
I don't know who participated on the calls. I understand reading through the lines at the RCMP, but this is the very first time I see this document.
Okay. Are you disagreeing with it, or you simply don't know?
I wasn't there, and I don't want to question what's in there, but I wasn't there. Some of the things that I see, I can validate it through other intel that I had from other picture, but I don't even know who the representatives from the RCMP was on this call.
Okay, you had no information to suggest at that point in time that the protesters were planning to block intersections. Is that fair?
Not at that time.
Right. Thank you very much. And I believe, again, I can turn up the document, Commissioner, but I understand that as of just a couple days before the demonstration, there was some discussion at the RCMP about it was unknown how long they were staying, but there was some social media saying that they might stay until January 31st, which would be the Monday when Parliament was supposed to resume session, correct?
Again, I wasn't intimate, like I wasn't into the details of the intelligence, and maybe Deputy Commissioner Duhem would be better suited to answer that.
I can show you the document if you want, Deputy, unless you're...
No, I do recall seeing a document saying that they were planning to stay until the 31st.
Okay.
And there's
Thank
another document that I'm not quite sure if it's before they arrived or after they arrived, that they didn't leave, they didn't want to leave unless they met with the Prime Minister. So I'm not quite sure if it was before they arrived or after they arrived.
Okay, so just for the records, it's pb.nsc.can 408069, which I believe was the 25th, which is indicated that some social media were saying that they would stay until January 31st. And if I could ask you, Mr. Clerk, to...
Now, maybe it could take us to the day that the blockade actually materialized and how the K Division forces dealt with that, how the blockade materialized and how the police reacted to that.
Yeah, so the convoy was in the process of doing their slow rolls when, I'll say suddenly, one of the semi-trailer tractor units jackknifed itself on the roadway, effectively blocking travel in both directions and bringing the convoy to a halt at that point. So effectively, I would say at that point, creating an offense in the context of provincial or criminal code statutes.
Did you, Deputy Commissioner, or the people working in K Division on the reaction to this slow roll, which ended up becoming a blockade, did you form a view about whether that particular truck that jackknifed itself and blocked the road, or others who followed the same pattern, was that as you and your forces perceived it, the intention of everybody on the slow roll, or was that the actions of some smaller part of the slow rolling trucks?
I believe it was the actions of a certain segment or portion of a group. As I had mentioned earlier, the organizers, that wasn't their intention to blockade. And we later, learned that they had lost that control. And as we saw over the course of the next few days, a splinter leadership group developed from the larger protest group. And we know as well that there were a number of individuals that were caught up in that blockade that did not have the desire to be part of that blockade.
Did you mean they got trapped in it?
That's exactly right. It was in the next couple of days following that, specifically on January 30th, we were able to assist a group of about 30 or so semi-trailer units. They had cleared Canada Customs coming north into Canada. They were on the Canadian side of the border at that point, but had been blocked by the convoy and had nowhere to go. So we worked with them, with Canada, with CBSA and USCBP to allow them to turn around, move back through the US and come back into Canada and another location. So they had no desire to be part of that blockade at all. And then the following day, the 31st, there was another group of individuals, of folks that were, I'll say, caught up in that blockade that were released and were able to move on from the blockade.
Now, you described fairly extensive planning and preparation and anticipation, that is advanced knowledge and consequent planning and preparation and anticipation of the slow roll. And yet, we've heard that it's in the evidence of the mayor of Coots that he thought that the RCMP were caught off guard by the blockade. Were you caught off guard by the protest and the slow roll, or by it having turned into a blockade by this jackknife that you described?
So we knew there was, at the very least, going to be a slow roll through Coots. However, we were also planning for, potentially a blockade as well. We had, as I mentioned earlier, we had deployed resources to that immediate area. We didn't deploy resources in a quantity that would allow us to, take any necessary enforcement action in the context of arrests and such at that particular time. So we needed the 30th and the 31st of January to deploy further resources into the area to bring up our resource numbers to ensure that if in fact it was necessary to take enforcement action, that we have sufficient resources to do our best to ensure public and police officer safety at that particular time. I think one can say that in a situation like this, where you have the number of participants that were present and the number of vehicles that were present, the best way to resolve that type of a situation is trying to gain voluntary compliance to move people along, right? Those are difficult situations to manage in that context.
And during those first few days that you described, the 28th, 29th, 30th, while you were trying to marshal your forces in case enforcement action was necessary, was your CCMG group in trying to deal with the protesters?
They were, right? They were, and they were challenged, though, in those first couple of days, attempting to identify a leadership group within the larger protest group. And it seemed like no one wanted to step forward to identify themselves as leaders or such. So I would say it was quite quiet, is the way it was described to me, as far as any interaction or even the potential to find individuals to interact with us that might be part of a leadership or playing a leadership role in the protest.
Now, taking us, we've gone through the 28th, 29th, 30th, and do I understand correctly that part of the forces you marshaled in anticipation of potential enforcement action was to get some heavy lift towing capacity arranged in case it was needed? Right.
That was part of our objective and part of our operational plan. When we weren't getting a response in the context of engagement with our CCMG, we recognized the potential that we might have to take enforcement action in that situation. So we did arrange for towing capacity, and of course this is heavy-duty towing capacity to move these large tractor-trailer units from the roadway that were blocking the roadway. And we got cooperation to do that. In fact, we were able to marshal some tow trucks, I believe it was on the 31st, and have them in place. As it turned out on the 31st, later in the day, we got the engagement from individuals within the protest group and started some communication and actually some negotiation at that particular point. So we held off on any enforcement action that particular time and held off until later in the day. Unfortunately, later in the day, those negotiations, I'll say negotiations, fell off. And given that time of the day, we weren't able to initiate any action with the tow trucks at that particular time. Our communication with the tow truck operators and the companies was such that they indicated they would be back the next morning. And as such, it was the next morning that we planned to deploy resources into the protest group. And of course, first seek compliance for the operators of the vehicles to move along. And of course, if they did not volunteer or comply with that, we were preparing to make arrests. And with the arrests, ensuring that we had the towing capacity to necessarily remove the trucks from the roadway.
And do you know why the towing capacity wasn't there after by the end of the day of the 31st?
We understood that tow companies, tow operators were receiving phone calls. There was a barrage of online negative commentary to towing companies and operators as well around their potential participation and assistance of the police in this situation. So there was a lot of that surfacing. And of course, that was a significant factor in towing companies and operators deciding not to assist the police the following morning.
And throughout the remainder of the event at Coutts, did you ever manage to regain commercial towing contracts or commitments from either those companies or others at Coutts?
No, we did not. No, that never came to be. And I would say our folks made significant efforts to obtain that requisite towing capacity. We canvassed towing companies across Alberta, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia. We even reached into the United States, into Montana, and canvassed towing companies there for their interest in assisting us at Coutts. And I would say for various reasons, we were turned down and found no cooperation in that context.
I'm just going to take a slight digression, Deputy Commissioner, and talk about a topic that I saw pass by as you were describing the geography and the scenario. And I'm going to talk about the efforts that K-Division undertook to see if you could get the protesters to relocate or otherwise carry on their protest in a way that wouldn't, block traffic, or put another way, be illegal. And I'm going to begin that with a quotation you might recognize. This is Chief Superintendent Daru, who is you'll know as the officer in command of the Southern Alberta District. And this is the quotation from him that I'll put to you and then ask you to comment on.
Okay.
Our first and typically most effective approach in moving a protest into a lawful state is communication. At Coutts, we engaged our community conflict management group to move the protest back to a lawful state. And that's the end of the quotation. Right. I just want to ask you about that concept of that is, as Chief Superintendent Daru put it, the step number one when confronting a protest that has become unlawful is to see if you can find a way to make it lawful again. Have I caught his thought correctly?
Yeah, I believe you have, yes.
And what types of steps were you hoping to take, or the people working in K-Division, to see if that could be done with respect to the protest at Coutts?
Yeah, well, one of the primary things that we attempted to do was create a lawful protest site. So again, we wanted to move the unlawful protest from the port of entry area further up the highway. When I say up the highway, north towards Milk River, or quite frankly, away from the immediate port area. And so we did a number of things to try and accomplish that. We created what we called a community stakeholder engagement team. So we assigned 2 senior police officers to engage with the community leaders in the area, so the community leaders from Coutts and Milk River and the municipalities.
Folks, if you want to be kept up to date on what's happening at the Emergency Act Inquiry, including my live tweets and some clips and highlights that occurring at the Emergency Act Inquiry, by heading over to revolutionnews.ca/Emergency Act Commission. That's revolutionnews.ca/Emergency Act Commission. And of course, here folks, while you're there, please head over to donorbox.org/emergency act commission. That's donorbox.org/emergency act commission. And of course, here folks, if you could chip in a buck or two, that will be greatly appreciated, as it will help me cover my travel expenses, including my expenses on food, as bringing you these stories doesn't come for free. Thank you so much.